In this session we're looking at the Bible, and just in the same way that our faith can vary from person to person, so can how we access the Bible. I wonder, what translation do we use? I wonder, how often do we access the Bible? When do we read it? Do we ever study the Bible on its own or with an accompanying devotional book or otherwise? Even how we hold the Bible in authority can vary from person to person. In a study by the Methodist Church some years ago, it recognises that there are 7 acceptable ways in which we can hold the Bible in its authority. Let me explain this. At one end of the spectrum is recognising that the Bible is God's perfect and divine message from God. It is, each word, each story is perfect, and it's up to us to carry it from generation to generation. At the other end of the spectrum is recognising that actually the authors, the stories aren't quite perfect, and yet embedded through those imperfect lives and stories is God's perfect message. And it's up to each and every one of us to prayerfully and spiritually discern and really kind of seek God's will throughout those perfect stories and find God's will, God's perfect message within it. And in between these two extremes, there are 5 other variations of which we can hold and respect the authority of the Bible in our lives. And so even recognising before we've even opened the book, we could actually, the different ways in which we can hold its authority will impact our Christian life and living. And once we've opened it, I wonder, how often do we read its pages? Do we read little snippets like in the lectionary, a few passages at a time? Or do we use devotionals like a Bible in a year or variations thereof to help us get through the Bible and to study it? Are there other devotionals that we like to use? Commentaries, for example. One way in which I like to study the Bible and to reflect on it is actually a method used by the early church, which is Lectio Divina. And first you will open up a passage and you'll read it and you'll prayerfully meditate over it, chewing over, what does this mean? What does this mean here and now? And then continue in prayer, and then to contemplate it and chew over it for a little bit longer. My own variation of it actually differs a little bit too. I like to begin in prayer, to say, okay, God, I'm opening this passage today and I want to seek your Holy Spirit to guide me into what I need to learn. And then to spend some time reading that passage, reading it once, twice, maybe even 3 or 4 times. Each time I read it, maybe changing the way I read the passage, how I emphasise different words over different bits. And then as I read it and reread it, I then prayerfully think, actually, God, is there a word here? Is there a sentence that's leaping out at me? And it's only at that point I then sort of go, oh, actually, you know what, this is speaking to me in this way. And then I'll then put the Bible down, or maybe just still leave it open, and then just say, okay, God, this is speaking to me. What does this say to me for today? And then meditate and contemplate that before then eventually maybe praying some more and then concluding my time with the Bible. When it comes to reading the Bible, I often just, pick it up as anyone else would do maybe and just read the lectionary, but there are times when I just want to chew on the word a little bit more so, and so I'll try and etch out, and usually, dare I say, with 2 small children in our household, I try and etch out and carve out proper time to do it. Try and find a good half an hour or even longer just to sit down on my own with my Bible. That in itself is a challenge. But then to try and just find a place where I'm, just not disturbed, whether outside, inside, or elsewhere. Sit down with my Bible and with a big pad of paper. I love doodling, so it's usually unlined. But basically, I will sit down and just read the Bible. I would find a good chapter. One of my favourite books is Matthew, and I would just start at the beginning, chapter 1, and I would just take time. First of all, I would pray and just invite the Holy Spirit to lead me, guide me as I study, as I reflect on the words, and I'll literally just jot down anything that jumps out at me, a little bit like Lectio Divina, but just kind of just chew over and maybe read the passage over twice, 3 times, and just jot down, keep on jotting down as if I'm just taking notes, like any other book in some respects, but then just to continue to contemplate what's been said. So ahead of this video and this exercise, I decided to do just that with the first few chapters of Matthew, and I sat down and made lots of notes. So here's my notes just here, lots of drawings as well, and it struck me, for example, if we talked about Joseph the dreamer, we'd instantly be thinking about the Old Testament, whereas actually, as I was writing out and just reflecting on Matthew, I was surprised how Joseph, Jesus' stepdad, was actually a dreamer as well, and God spoke to him through his dreams. There's 3 times when God speaks to Joseph through his dreams, and that had never jumped out at me before. And so it's just little kind of glimpses of those sort of things that I just encourage us just to try and sit down and just devote some time to reading the Bible and just to chew over it ourselves. And of course, if we find anything exciting that we do come across, of course we can kind of share it with others or lean into other people's wisdom through a study Bible or a commentary or something like that. And so I just encourage us, however we may view the Bible, just to take time out to chew it over for ourselves. I wonder how we read our Bibles, when and where.